Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. You know, the day before Thanksgiving. Let me just make a special announcement right here at the top of the show. We're not going to have shows on Thanksgiving or the Friday afterwards, so that you and we and our staff can spend time with our family being thankful. So let me right off the top wish you a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving. I will continue to post things on our Facebook pages and other social media, but our actual show will return on Monday. But between now and then, we got Wednesday, a great show for you today. We're going to start with the gift that keeps on giving. Ocasio-Cortez, man. She is pushing eliminating bail. You know, that's the progressives want to eliminate cash bail in spite of the Waukesha tragedy. And we'll get into the details on how those are connected in just a minute. And then things are absolutely getting crazy in California. Even by California standards, they are absolutely insane. Cali is literally being run over by crime, and the question is, have voters had enough? There's some evidence in California, some polling and whatnot, that California voters might finally be waking up to the hell that they have created with their progressive policies. I don't trust it, and I'm going to tell you more about that in just a minute, but I'm going to show you some startling video coming out of California. Before we go any further, I always have to talk about, at the top of our show, some special gifts and chances I have for you, opportunities, I guess I should say. Look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. Check out the link, Big Daddy Unlimited, BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited. Click on that link, follow the directions, and you will get factory direct pricing on guns and ammunition, as well as all things Second Amendment, over 100,000 related items delivered directly to your door at factory direct pricing. And if you want a demonstration as to just how great these savings can be, check out the show which precedes us, Denny's Deals. Denny comes on John Martin Talks Facebook page. He's also on our excluded Facebook site. You drop the E, put the big X up there, excluded. Denny comes on at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time live, an hour before us, and he demonstrates a few products from the Big Daddy Unlimited arsenal, but then he shows you the factory direct pricing you will receive if you're a member of Big Daddy Unlimited. So once you see those deals, go back to our video, the link above, click on BDU, follow the directions, and that pricing will be yours. And Christmas is right around the corner, and nothing says I love you better than an AR-15, right? Anyway, let's get along with the show here. This first story comes to you via Breitbart. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, otherwise known as AOC, promotes bail reform one day after Waukesha, hope I'm saying it correctly, Christmas parade massacre. Now, I really think, who wears it better, the jackass or the real jackass there, the leader of the Democratic Party, really the true Speaker of the House, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, what this article is essentially about in a nutshell is that Ocasio-Cortez is continuing to push for bail reform, which essentially means doing away with bail, cash bail. Well, what other kind of bail is there? Like trading a basket of fruit or something? I don't know. Cash, but what other bail is there than cash bail? But, and this is literally on the heels of what happened in Waukesha. Now, the reason that is connected is because this guy, we're going to talk about Mr. Brooks here more in just a moment, they've arrested a suspect in that, and essentially this guy has been let out in cheap cash bail over and over and over again, and was essentially let out just a couple of days before he massacred these people with his automobile, killing 5, at least now death toll could go up, and injuring 40 others, including elderly and children. It's just crazy. Open socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez promoted bail reform efforts. It's not really reform, ladies and gentlemen. It's doing away with it. It's like defunding the police. It's doing away with it. Promoted bail reform efforts just one day after Waukesha, Wisconsin Christmas parade, where the suspect Darrell E. Brooks Jr., who has an extreme criminal record, was released on a $1,000 bond just days prior to when he allegedly plowed an SUV into those crowds of people. Now we're going to read you, and here in a moment, a pretty lengthy rap sheet that well, I'm going to make sure I get it and give the credit Mr. Brooks gave. But Darrell Brooks Jr. reportedly, literally the day of or the day before, it's still a little unclear, that he ran through the Christmas parade. He ran over a woman, his baby mama, I think it was, with the same SUV that he ran over all those people with like a day later. And he just gotten out on bail for that. It's just insane. In a tweet on Monday morning, Ocasio-Cortez shared a letter that she penned with Representative Carolyn Maloney, Democrat of New York, and Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maine. She hangs out with the worst of the worst, asking New York City's 5 district attorneys for information on excessive bail in New York court system, particularly for low-income residents, she tweeted. Well, I don't think bail is necessarily about how much you can afford. It's about deterrence, really, right? And protecting whether you're going to come back or not. And it's worked for decades, right? Listen to this, what she put in this letter. More than 75% of individuals in custody, and I don't know if her facts are correct, I'm just quoting what she wrote. More than 75% of individuals in custody haven't been convicted of a crime. Well, no wonder. If you're in jail and you're waiting bail, you haven't been convicted at least of that crime, whichever one they're charging you with, and are confined in unsafe conditions simply because they cannot afford cash bail. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. She said condemning thousands of individuals to languish in such environments as they await trial is unacceptable. And so languish. So I decided I'd look up the word languish to see it maybe what context she was using it. And this is the number one definition of languish. Of a person or other living thing lose or lack vitality, grow weak or feeble. Well, it sounds like the description of basically the vision of the socialists, the Democratic Party for America, right? Don't they want people or persons living a living thing to lose or lack vitality, grow weak or feeble? That's what they want for freedom and liberty, to be loose and feeble, weak and feeble. Sounds like socialist vision of the country to me. I guess it's better to let them languish in the public, languish in the neighborhood. And it's just crazy. I want to tell you a really quick story. I was at kind of a social gathering the other night, and I met this young man. I'm guessing he's probably in his 30s. I'll let him remain anonymous. He's black. I don't know his descendants. I identify him that way for a particular reason, because he grew up and lived and grew up his whole life as a child and a young man in New York City. And I have a history in New York City as well. I lived up there for about almost 5 years in the mid-'80s. So we talked a little bit about it. And I asked him how things were back there, because he's lived in Florida now for a number of years, has a profession here, pretty high up the chain. And he said that all the people he knew, now he didn't qualify whether they were black, white, or whatever. He said all the people he knows that have called New York home for generations have either left or in the process of leaving New York City. And, welcome to the free state of Florida. Just don't bring whatever you're running from in New York City with you. The letter said this, the Ocasio-Cortez, this is excerpts from her letter. We have grave concerns that excessive bail amounts are leading to unnecessary pretrial detention and contributing to humanitarian crisis in New York City's jail system. And that could be true. No one wants to go, and she's talking about particularly Rikers Island, and it sounds like it's hell on earth there. She said 14 people have died, talking about Rikers Island, this year in the custody of New York City Department of Corrections. Now, if true, as the Democrats say, if true, then why don't you fix the jails? Why don't you fix the jails? If there's a problem and your jails are unsafe, why not fix the jails? But of course, they don't believe, they being the progressive leftists that have taken over your party, the Democrats. And I'm not saying every registered Democrat or every New Yorker for that matter, but the people who are running the Democratic Party, especially in New York, from Cuomo, who now is out, and we got the preacher lady of the new religion, I can't even think of her name, we hadn't talked about that in a while. Maybe we'll play that video again after Thanksgiving. I mean, if you haven't ever seen that video of the new former lieutenant governor, now governor, when she basically is preaching about the vaccinations and everything else, it's unbelievable. But if you look at who's running New York, the city and the state, people like Ocasio-Cortez, people like Comrade Bill de Blasio, I mean, they just don't believe in jails. They don't believe in it. So I don't know what they believe, some kind of magical one. The only people they believe should be in jail are the January 6th people, right? The so-called insurrectionists. Now, they should be in jail. A matter of fact, if Ocasio-Cortez and her bunch had their way, it'd be off with their heads. Keep in mind that, like I call him Buffalo Hat Guy, you know that guy, he just got sentenced to 3 years in prison, and he didn't commit any violence. There's plenty of video of him in the Capitol. I'm not condoning what he did in going into the Capitol, but he didn't commit any violence, and essentially he got 4 years in prison because he just got sentenced to 3 years in prison, and he's been in solitary confinement since January 6th, basically. So it's just absolutely, and I don't hear any of these people defending his right to get out of there. They didn't allow him to even have bail, I don't think. But you don't hear the left talking about that at all. The letter further emphasized that federal intervention may be necessary. Well, of course it may be necessary. You know, that's the solution for the progressives all the time. Government, bigger government, federal government. It reminds me when I hear them talking about, oh, we just need federal intervention, may be necessary. It reminds me of one of my heroes. Remember this video? Hopefully we can get it up. I guess we're having a few technical difficulties. The Ronald Reagan video. Can we get it up, Billy Bob? There we go.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah, right. There you go. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Billy Bob, of course, if you haven't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're determined to stay in the public square. So that's why I tell you all the time, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those of us in the fight. So if you want to continue to see programs like ours, then you have to like them, share them. You have to be a bit more proactive to watch them because we're being squelched, shadow banned, algorithmed, and all that kind of stuff. So we really appreciate that, your help in that. But Billy Bob said maybe, talking about Ocasio-Cortez and my thing that she should help fix the jails and prisons in her own district in New York, that he says maybe if Ocasio-Cortez actually didn't fight against 25,000 jobs in her own district. Now we're talking about Amazon. You know, Amazon wanted to locate their headquarters in her district, literally, and Ocasio-Cortez put a kibosh on that. So maybe if you had those tax dollars, you could actually fix your jail. But you'd have the money to fix the situation locally, and you wouldn't need federal intervention. But listen to this. The topic of bail reform was thrust into the national spotlight on Monday after Darrell E. Brooks Jr., he's the suspect that was arrested for the driving the SUV through the Waukesha Christmas parade. According to Wisconsin court records, a 39-year-old Darrell E. Brooks of Milwaukee had one pending charge of felony bail jumping, and so he didn't care about the money, one charge of felony second-degree reckless endangering safety with a domestic abuse assessment. He also, and I mean this is long, but I think you need to hear this. This is who Ocasio-Cortez and her ilk are defending. He also had one misdemeanor charge of resisting a police officer, disorderly conduct, and battery. The alleged offenses occurred on November 2nd of 2021. So he was just in all this trouble. The same Brooks was released on a $1,000 bond on November 19th, just 2 days before the Christmas parade attack. So this guy really shouldn't have been out on the streets. I mean, he did all of this stuff. He should have been in jail being held for quite some time. And I think he's got convictions where he's released as well. But listen to this, it goes on. Brooks also had a lengthy criminal record relating to battery, firearms charges going back to 1999, including an outstanding warrant for sex crimes in the state of Nevada, according to Fox News. I mean, so this guy should not have even been walking the streets, let alone driving in that Christmas parade, right? Two separate judges, listen, I mean, this gets worse and worse by the second here. Let me take a quick sip here. Two separate judges freed him, talking about Brooks here, on a low-cost bail, first for $500 in February after allegedly shooting his nephew the previous summer. So he shot his nephew and he got out on that for $500. His nephew the previous summer, and again for $1,000 earlier this month. Check this out. After a woman accused him of punching her and running her over with the same SUV that he allegedly plowed through Waukesha's Christmas parade. I mean, this guy should not be walking the streets. And I blame people like Ocasio-Cortez for this, because they are coddling these criminals. I mean, keep in mind that Joe Biden, when he was a candidate, his campaign staff literally donated tens of thousands of dollars to bail people out that were arrested for rioting, looting, and pillaging and burning places. And if that wasn't enough, Miss Kamala, Where's My Willie Harris, actually used her own money and bailed out people who were charged with felonies and who later went on to commit felonies. These are the people that are occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. God help us, and they're coddling these dadgum criminals. To me, this is not a racial issue. It is, do we want to live in a safe society issue? Do we want to live in a constitutional republic? Do we want the rule of law, or do we want anarchy? Because to me, it really seems like they want the latter, anarchy. But it says here, and let me just, after reading all of Mr. Brooks' criminal record, and I'm not trying to lay this on him, because believe me, I do believe in redemption, absolutely. But I think some people are out of human control, and it's a God thing if they ever do. I mean, you look at this guy, it doesn't seem like he's redeemable to me, not in any normal circumstance, and certainly not getting away with all this and just having to pay a few bucks here and there to get out. And he continues, this is the most troubling thing. If you look at a guy like his record, and obviously if he's guilty, was accused of, killing these people in the parade, women and children, elderly people, and 5 killed and 40 injured. I mean, he continues to escalate. And it reminds me a little bit of, and no one really ever talks about this except on shows like mine, that the whole thing with what happened in the George Floyd case. People don't talk about the fact that he was arrested previously for home invading a woman. I believe she was a woman of color. It really doesn't matter. Pregnant woman, put a gun to her belly and to her head, a pregnant woman. Now this guy was let off on that, was walking the streets, and obviously, and I'm not saying his death was in any way justified whatsoever, but he was hardly a pillar of a community, hardly worthy of statues and hero worship and everything else. I mean, the people that the left deem as heroes, they say, for instance, that this Kyle Rittenhouse, that he killed 2 and wounded 3 heroes, literally their words on places like MSNBC. Heroes, considering one of the people, his quote victims that he was defending himself from, was convicted of sodomizing children. Yet this person is a hero, according to the left. It's just absolutely, I mean, when are they going to let this guy Brooks, is he going to be a hero? But they keep letting these people out, man. It's crazy. Milwaukee District Attorney John Chisholm has been an outspoken supporter of bail reform and even previously praised the election of the craziest one out there, Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon. We've done quite a few shows on that. He's notorious for his soft stance on violent crime out there in LA. We've done shows on him in the past. By the way, if you want to see our podcast, you can go to Rumble. We're live every day now, live streaming on Rumble and YouTube. Howdy, how are you guys? I mean, Rumble has become the go-to place for free speech. If you haven't checked out Rumble, check it out and spread it out far and wide. But we're also archived on the Excluded app. I talked about the Excluded Facebook page, but go to your app store, spell Excluded by dropping the E, put the big X up there, Excluded. You'll not only see our show archived on there, but you'll see some original program and national figures on there as well. Check out the Excluded app. But one of the things I've been telling you, and we have got to take back our district attorneys. George Soros, and I think I got a meme of him put up there, he is actually funding the worst of the worst. This attorney out there, district attorney in LA, George Gascon that they mentioned here, Soros funded him. He funds all the worst scalawags, as I would call it, within the progressives, the Democratic Party. And I'm not talking about all Democrats. I want to make that clear. I'm not talking about every registered Democrat. I'm talking about the people running your party. Believe me, the puppet master is George Soros. And you know, we've been talking about we need to take our school boards back, and I absolutely think we need to do that. But we also need to keep in mind that our district attorneys, our state's attorneys, those kind of things, let alone our attorney general at the U.S. level, Merrick Garland, what a piece he is. But we need to take it back. We have to take it back. That's where it really starts because, you know, obviously people like Ocasio-Cortez, I mean, she keeps winning re-election. And so we got to fight our battles, man. And we're losing not only the cultural war, but the real war on crime. We're losing it right now. But my question really is, when is enough enough? How much blood does there have to be on the street? How many people have to be harmed? And if you think about this meme right here, this is a great hope of mine. And I know a lot of people, when they look at this meme talking about the people that just want to be left alone when they're aggravated enough to awaken, they think that they're going to automatically go to the left. But I don't see it that way. I actually believe that a lot of people who, for whatever reason, are kind of asleep at the switch, if they get aggravated enough that they can't get to work, they don't feel it's safe for their children to go to school, those kind of things, they're going to wake up and they're going to be on our side because, you know, why would they go the other way if what's happening and what they're encountering is waking them up? You know, one of the things I've said before, but if I say it, it certainly bears repeating, is we've kind of, since World War II, we as a nation, and I'm painting with a broad brush, we've basically been living fat and happy. And there's nothing wrong with fat and happy. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to necessarily be fat, but I have been, and I definitely like being happy. So I don't have a problem with pursuing that. But we've forgotten the price that was paid for liberty. And Thomas Jefferson said, quite honestly, and it's one of the reasons why I do the show, it's kind of a theme of the show, that you can't be both ignorant and free, or you want what never was and never will be. That's why I battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis. The ignorance of just how special, truly special, this experiment we call America is. And I say it's experiment because, like Ronald Reagan said so eloquently, that it's not passed in the bloodstream. If we don't pass it on to the children and we don't take care of the next generation and educate them, which is, by the way, why the left desperately wants to hold on to school boards, because indoctrination. But if we don't do what Ronald Reagan said, then we better heed his warning that we might be talking about the sunset of America, and he's right about that. But when is enough enough? When are people going to finally sit back? We're going to talk a little bit about California here in just a minute, and it is absolutely ludicrous what's happening out there. But when is enough enough? When is enough enough? I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think we've had more than enough. I know I've had a dadgum belly full of it myself. Now, before we go any further, before we get in our next story, I want to talk about an opportunity that I have for you. Look above the video again, where no matter when or where you're watching it, check out johnmartinhealth.com. johnmartinhealth.com. Click on that link, follow the directions, and you will get absolutely free a bottle of zinc and a bottle of vitamin D3, $50 value, absolutely free to you, johnmartinhealth.com. Because one thing that I think we all should agree on coming out of the pandemic, however you want to say it, is that we need to be healthier as a people, literally worldwide, because I got people looking worldwide, and I want my audience to be healthier and wiser by watching the show and healthier by taking advantage of this. johnmartinhealth.com. Please accept this gift from me. All right, let's get into the next topic here. This comes to you via the Washington Examiners. Voters are waking up to radical California crime laws in wake of Bay Area looting. This is a Tiffany store, I believe in the San Francisco Bay Area, maybe LA, I'm not sure, that was looted. I'm about to show you a video here in a minute that is just mind-blowing. It just really is. But in California, people are being bum rushed. They're literally being accosted like outdoor cafes. People are literally being robbed while they're waiting on their lunch in high-dollar places. They also, and I don't think this story actually mentions it, but I just heard this a couple days ago, that like in places like Rodeo Drive and stuff like that, that people, wealthy people, are shopping and people are literally following them to their residence and then home invading them and stealing their goods and everything else right there. So it's getting crazy in California. But wait till you see this latest video I have for you. A groundswell of Californians has started to push back against the pro-crime laws that have caused out-of-control looting, brought to you by the very people I was talking about, the Soros-backed people as well. All this is connected. You know, the wishbone connected to the neck bone or whatever. Laws that have caused out-of-control looting, such as what happened to San Francisco area Nordstrom and Louis Vuitton store over the weekend. I'm going to play you this video. It's kind of fast moving, but I want to tell you what you're witnessing here. You're witnessing a basically, according to eyewitness reports that you'll hear in this testimony in just a minute, like 80 to maybe even 100 people in cars bum rushing a Nordstrom store and essentially within a few minutes or seconds looting the whole thing and then going on high-speed chases. Check it out. This is hard to believe, but it is happening in America. Look at it.
Like a well-organized operation, people sprinted to waiting cars carrying bags full of merchandise from Nordstrom's in Walnut Creek Saturday night.
I saw people running down the street. I probably saw 50 to 80 people in like ski masks, crowbars, like a bunch of weapons.
In one dramatic scene, a car veered around a police SUV to make a getaway, but another officer stopped him with his gun drawn. 3 people were arrested. All are charged with robbery. One of them is also charged with being a felon in possession of a gun. NBC Bay Area has obtained a still image from a security camera inside Nordstrom's during the robbery. A company spokesperson says 5 of their employees were injured, police saying at least 3 workers were assaulted, 1 with pepper spray. And tonight, there is still cause for concern. Walnut Creek police took to social media warning about the possibility of another robbery. Some high-end shops like Tiffany's closed early. Janet Catalano and Marnie Pantar were the last customers in the store as staff locked their doors. How are they in there?
They're a little nervous.
Definitely.
They are a little nervous for sure, as I would be too if I worked retail in this area right now.
In a prepared statement, the mayor of Walnut Creek says the city is actively working to try to prevent any of these incidents from happening here again. And you can see that they are already taking efforts. The street going through Broadway Plaza Mall has been blocked off for most of the day. And police officers are everywhere. Nordstrom's is still closed, a bit of an inconvenience for customer Frank Augustin, who couldn't return a pair of shoes.
It's such a shame that we have to worry about this. I mean, you see it in San Francisco, at the Louis Vuitton on Friday night.
The situation in Walnut Creek coming just 24 hours after a similar robbery in San Francisco. 9 stores were either burglarized or vandalized. Some store workers were also injured. There have been 8 arrests so far, and San Francisco's police chief says there will be more. In Walnut Creek, Sergio Quintana, NBC Bay Area News.
I mean, how crazy has it got to get? Where is this going to end? I mean, we're either going to be a civil society governed under the rule of law of the U.S. Constitution, or we're not. And if we're not, this is only going to get worse. I mean, they've let it go so far, and these people are so emboldened that some of them are going to, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm really not. And I don't really want to see anyone get hurt. But I don't know how you're going to have to go old school on these people. It's going to have to be like that Willie Nelson song, by hanging them up by the highest tree. I mean, there are going to have to be some shootouts. I'm not wishing for this algorithm. I'm just predicting it. I hope I'm wrong. But there's going to have to be some killing done. I just tell you, some of these people they're going to have to understand, because they obviously fear nothing. They don't fear the cops. We're seeing this kind of stuff. It's getting worse and worse. Larger numbers of people. So, I mean, it's going to be like the Walking Dead among us or something, man. It's just they're going to bum rush people. It's just not going to end well. And they're trying to disarm us, defund the police. You know, we can't have our own weapons. We can't, Kyle Rittenhouse defends himself. And now he's a white supremacist for doing that, and anybody who supported him needs to be banned and boycotted and everything else. We talked about that on yesterday's show. Where is this going to end? It is either going to end in total bloodshed somewhere down the line, or it's going to end the nation. Because you can't have a United States of America and continue to allow this to happen. It just cannot be, man. Democrat and Republican lawmakers, back to this story, alike told the Washington Examiner that a 2014 law this is talking about out in California, known as Prop 47, helped create the crime surge in California by downgrading thefts under $950 to misdemeanors. This, I said at the time, and I'll say it now, is absolutely insane. It's led, for instance, to give you an example, Walgreens has announced, and I don't know if they've carried through on it, but they've announced that they're basically getting out of the city of San Francisco, closing all of their locations out of fear, out of obviously profit loss, but fear for their customers and their employees, because now that it's no longer a crime to steal $950 or less, people just routinely come in there, bag up their own goods and walk right out the door, and there's nothing anyone can do, and the cops have been told to essentially stand down. It's crazy. People forget, and this came out in the Rittenhouse trial, and Rittenhouse himself did a great thing a couple nights ago on Tucker Carlson. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to look at the interview that Tucker Carlson did with him on like Monday night. You really ought to check that out. But he essentially said that the cops weren't there. They weren't there, and he felt like he had to defend this. You could argue with him or what. Remember that when Kyle Rittenhouse shot those people, he was fleeing, trying to get away. He wasn't standing his ground. He was trying to get away, and literally was on the video heard saying, "I'm trying to reach the cops. I'm trying to reach the police officers." Yet he was attacked. This is one of these things, I hadn't said this, but I guess I should come right out and say it, because I'm always trying to help, and this is one of those times in the show, if you don't get anything else out of it, get this. If someone has an AR-15 or any loaded weapon, period, don't attack them unless you intend on getting shot. I mean, it's just not going to end well for you. But listen to this. To combine with follow-up laws, talking about this $950 is no longer a crime, basically, to steal it. This combined with follow-up laws that remove jail as a punishment for non-felons, create a crime wave that law enforcement cannot keep up with. And that's very true. How can law enforcement, you're defunding them and everything else, keep up with gangs that are like 50 to 80 people, like the guy said? It's only going to get bigger, right? And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've been saying this for a while, but if I say it, it bears repeating, and it's a fact. I told you that I'd tell you all the time when we're being played. and we're being played, and I don't take it lightly. This whole thing, and I go back to what I said about George Soros, you know, funding all these like anti-law enforcement prosecutors and states and district attorneys and all that kind of stuff. All of this is according to plan. It's being orchestrated. And by orchestrated, let me read you this definition. I know some of you have heard this before. Orchestrate, arrange or direct the elements of a situation to produce a desired effect, especially surreptitiously, and surreptitiously is defined as in a way that attempts to avoid notice or attention secretively. That is what is happening. Don't think this is by accident. This is not just, oh, we passed these series of laws and this is an unforeseen consequence. I firmly believe, and I'm not saying everybody, I'm not saying that like 60% that voted for this believe they may have been deceived, but George Soros and his ilk, they know exactly what they're doing. Because if you want to bring down a country like America, and you got to come to a conclusion that some of these people absolutely hate America as it currently stands. Under God we trust, they don't believe that. One nation under God, they don't believe that. They don't believe in freedom of speech. We're seeing that on a daily basis. Don't even get me started on the Second Amendment, although a lot of people, there's a difference between progressives and liberals. There's a lot of liberal people that actually are choosing to buy firearms, and a good way to do that is click above our video on Big Daddy Unlimited, and you got a great choice there. You help yourself and you help the show at the same time. A lot of law-abiding Americans across the different political spectrum are arming themselves at record numbers because they see what's happening. You know, it's one thing to talk about it, but when you see, if you witness something like those two women coming out of Nordstrom's and Tiffany's and all that kind of stuff, and you see this kind of stuff happening, how safe do you as an individual feel? If a Nordstrom's, a high dollar place, can be ransacked within a few minutes, how do you think you feel if you're walking down the street and you see that? How protected are you as an individual? Not very much. So you might need to go Kyle Rittenhouse and get you some weapons. I'm just saying, I'm not advocating for violence, but I am advocating, because let me just tell you, I hadn't said this in a while, but if I say it, it certainly bears repeating. I think the Second Amendment, first of all, you need to understand that the Second Amendment has never, ever been about hunting, or even sports shooting. You know, there's a lot of people, I know a lot of people that I've gotten to know through Big Daddy Unlimited are really into guns, target practicing, you know, competitive shooting and all that, and that's great. But the Second Amendment is not even really about that either. It is about protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I would go on to say that the Second Amendment is not only a God-given right that we have protected under the U.S. Constitution, which is what inalienable means, by the way, which is why they got to attack religion, because you know, if God giveth, man can't take it away. If man giveth, you know, the government we're here to help, like Ronald Reagan, they can take it away. But the Second Amendment, I would tell you, to me, the right to protect yourself, your family, and your property, I would go so far to say it is a basic human right. Now, I realize it's not everywhere on earth, and that's why some people are trying to get to this country, but you tell me why you don't have a basic right to defend yourself, your family, and your property. Please tell me where I'm wrong on that. And the Second Amendment is absolutely paramount, I should say, to that, man. But listen to this. Said California, and back up this, the whole thing is being orchestrated. I want to conclude with this right here to make you understand. Billy Bob tells me to circle back like Jen Psaki. People like George Soros and his ilk know exactly what they are doing, because what better way to destroy a nation like America from within if you let total lawlessness go on the street, and people don't feel safe, and they feel like they have to be vigilante justice because otherwise they're going to end up being a victim themselves. What better way to destroy a nation than this cashless bail, you know, that kind of thing, letting people out, not prosecuting people? Because think about this, you know, in New York, where they basically bum rushed and tore up all kind of stores. Same thing in Chicago, but it's specifically in New York, where Ocasio-Cortez, we were talking about that previously, they released everybody. They did not prosecute anybody for those rioting. and stealing and everything else. So that only who does that embolden? The citizen or the criminal? Said California Senator Melissa Hurtado, a Democrat, of course, but listen to what she's saying here, because this is the first little clue maybe that people are waking up. This is kind of the thrust of this article, that voters might actually be waking up in California. God, they need to. If not now, when? This is what she said, and let me tell you who she is again. California Senator Melissa Hurtado. I don't know anything about her, but she's a Democrat. She says, as a Democrat, I believe in criminal justice reform, whatever that means. There are inequities in our system where we need to create a justice system for all. I can agree with that, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. However, we have gone too far, she says. The state of California has been doing it wrong. It needs to change. It needs to change. Hey, amen, sister. I'm with you 100%. But when I look at this meme, or this picture, this is not a meme, this is a real picture of Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom, and they're arm in arm out in California. Joe Biden's out there campaigning for Gavin Newsom to not be recalled and to maintain governor, who is, at the top of a lot of this stuff, and Joe Biden is all about it. Joe Biden is about defunding. Joe Biden is about doing whatever the progressive left tells him to do, and whatever Obama's henchmen are whispering in his ear, because I firmly believe that Biden is the third term of Obama, but that's just me. But it gives me some hope to hear a Democrat like Miss Hurtado say what she just said. But when I look at the results, when California had a chance to get rid of Gavin Newsom, California gave us both of these guys. They gave us Joe Biden, they resurrected Gavin Newsom, and he's probably going to run for president someday himself now. So I have a little bit of hope, but then when I actually look at what's happening, I don't have much. The pushback has been building, back to the article, the pushback has been building for years as small family-owned businesses become the first looting victims. They always are. Then it was the Walgreens and the CVS stores, primarily in San Francisco. Let me back up and ask you this question. With all the looting that has gone on across the last year and a half, almost 2 years, and what is continuing obviously to happen there, it hurts the smaller businesses first, right? What business out there gained by far the most with the looting? I'll give you a hint. They are big-time supporters of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, for that matter. Jeffrey Peckerhead rocket guy Bezos. Amazon business has gone through the roof because the more mom and pops close, the more even big businesses close, the more you have to go online and shop at Amazon. There might be a connection there. I'm just saying. Excuse me. But then it says, then it was Walgreens. I talked about how they're getting out of the San Francisco altogether. CVS is kind of doing the same thing, primarily in San Francisco Bay Area, which had to either curtail hours or shutter altogether because theft was putting them out of business, and it was bringing liability to them for their customers and their employees. Next came brazen Macy's burglary of pricey purses, followed by last weekend's violent smash and grab with crowbars and assaults, okay? Now, Billy Bob, my psychic sidekick, I think I told you about him earlier, but he keeps me straight here. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at BillyBobBass1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're determined to stay in the public square. That's why I need you, our listening audience, to like what we're doing, share what we're doing, comment on everything, help us beat the old algorithm and the shadow banning. You got to, if you want to look at programs like us, you have to be a bit more proactive. But Billy Bob says to me, he says, maybe their first clue that things were going bad in San Francisco was this map. Have you seen this map? We did a whole show about it probably a year ago. This is an actual real map. This is not a doctored photo, Photoshop. This is the official, and it's probably increased, this is like a year old. This is the poop map of San Francisco. This area, the darker spots, are where you're most likely to step in a pile of human feces. And I also talk about the fact that you better look for what I call a San Francisco birthday cake, which is a big pile of human feces with needles sticking out of it. You don't want any of that. But maybe your first clue that you're on the wrong track is when you have to actually do a poop map. It's just crazy, man. John Dennis, chair of the San Francisco Republican Party, said he has been getting numerous messages from citizens who want a candidate to run in an assembly race. This is what he said. He said, "We haven't had a GOP run in San Francisco since 1973. Might be a connection there. Voters wouldn't even look at GOP candidates before. How many people in San Francisco can get a prescription where they normally did because Walgreens is closed? A leftist said he can't get a COVID test because there's no pharmacy within the walking district of his house." It's city mayhem is what it is, man. You tell me a Democrat-run city that is not going to hell in a handbasket. Every single one of them is. It is mayhem in our cities. The Democratic proponents of Proposition 47 billed the measure as Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Acts to downgrade a host of crimes and focus more attention on hardened criminals. It would also help clean out the prisons, of nonviolent offenders. Voters were told this, and they passed it with 60% of the vote. This to me is idiocracy. It literally is we are becoming a nation of idiots, man. This is where we're heading. We need a great awakening in this country. We absolutely do, and I'm hoping they're having it in California. I feel extremely sorry for the great patriots. There are millions of patriots out in California. They're just overwhelmed by this. And we need to build a wall, not only around the Mexican border, but we might need to increase it. So get out while you can, California. We might need to increase it to take on California. Remember California. You know, this is who I showed you, Newsom and Biden, but keep in mind, they gave us these people here. They gave us Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Okay, so keep that in mind at the same time. And I tell you all the time, you could certainly move to Florida. A lot of people are moving to from California to Texas. New Yorkers coming to Florida. And I tell people all the time, you know, you can welcome to come here. Just don't bring whatever you're running from in California to Texas or Florida or New York down here. I am American by birth, baby, Floridian by the grace of God. I greatly appreciate that. But we've got to man the political ramparts, ladies and gentlemen. We have to do it. We need to do what I've shown to me many times. It's choice time. We either need to make a stand or take a knee. That's kind of where we're at. And California, I hope that this article is true, that some of y'all are finally waking up, but we better wake up as a nation. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites, like them, share them with others. Check out johnmartinhealth.com for your free gift. Of course, Big Daddy Unlimited for your Second Amendment stocking stuffers. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation. Remember, we will not have a show on Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, or the Friday after, but we'll be back at our normal time, rested and ready to go on Monday. Have yourself a blessed Thanksgiving, but above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.